But first, Rishi Sunak is facing mounting pressure to ban arms exports to Israel after 7 aid workers, including 3 Brits, were killed in an airstrike earlier this week. John Chapman, James Kirby and James Henderson lost their lives along with 4 other aid workers when their convoy was attacked by an Israeli drone in Gaza. Now, British arms sales to Israel amounted to about £42 million in 2022. The last year data was available. But that's dwarfed in comparison to the likes of the United States, even Germany and Italy. As international pressure grows, the former head of MI6 deemed Israel's military action as bordering on reckless, claiming it fundamentally undermines the objective of sustaining some moral high ground. Adding to the outcry, 3 former Supreme Court justices, along with 600 lawyers and academics, warned that the British government that it's breaching international law by continuing to arm Israel. But former Home Secretary Suella Braverman described any such suggestion as an insult.
Absolutely not. The suggestion itself is absurd and, frankly, an insult to Israel, who's been going above and beyond the necessary requirements to ensure that civilian casualties are limited, to ensure that aid is received onto the Gaza Strip and distributed. I've seen evidence myself in terms of very up-to-date photographic evidence of plentiful food packages and trucks of food, water and medicines getting to the people of Gaza.
And speaking on Talk TV earlier, the editor of the Jewish Chronicle, Jake Wallace-Simmons, echoed her views.
Israel has gone to measures that no other country has gone to in terms of protecting civilian lives, including dropping millions of leaflets, making millions of phone calls warning civilians to leave combat zones, even dropping speakers from the air on parachutes broadcasting warnings to civilians to move, and as a result has protected many, many civilian lives.
I mean, there are a couple of points, or there's many points surrounding this issue. I'm really not sure where the lawyers and academics got their advice from in terms of it's breaching international law. I'm really not sure what that's based on. That could only be based on another assumption about what Israel are doing and how you would describe or define or articulate what they're doing. So I think that's kind of flawed, and Braverman is probably right on that. I think the point, Isabel, as well, about the amount of money. I mean, OK, there's tens of millions. If you look at the United States, it's tens of billions that are going to Israel. So in terms of an outcry over the United Kingdom and arms, I'm really not sure whether the debate has even got to that level yet, other than from some understandable, agitated voices who want to advance that.
I mean, it's certainly rapidly going there. There's been a huge amount of support for that that group of lawyers' letter, as you'd expect there to be, because we've seen the overwhelming support for the people of Palestine from these marches every week. So it doesn't surprise me that lots of people are jumping on this bandwagon. But to put the money in perspective, it's something like 42 million, I think you said. That's 0.02% of Israel's total budget on arms. So Germany contributes about 28% of Israel's military spending budget in that regard. So we are an absolutely infinitesimal fraction. And I don't think it would be the right reaction to suddenly upend our defence relationship with Israel over the awful things that have happened in the last couple of days. I think that there is a point to be made about Israel's attitude to collateral and the extent to which they have become over-casual about proportions and ratios. And there's some really interesting information coming out from an investigation I think, by an Israeli-based journalist about the use of AI for targeting and the extent to which this very clumsy software is being used to target individuals who may have unbelievably tenuous links to anybody who's involved in any kind of combatant way. And the suggestion that in the case of very low-level so-called targets, up to 20 civilians are considered an acceptable level of collateral damage, to the extent of a high-level target up to 300. I thought that was fascinating, the detail about how they are targeting it seems so blunt. And I think the problem here is that Israel is very rapidly running out of the moral high ground.
Well, I think that's a good point to make. But also, I think if you're looking at moral high grounds and where people are going with this, the fact that we've got a very small amount of money being spent in the UK on arms demonstrates how politicised and how charged this has become, that lawyers believe that they should be sending such letters, that they should be undermining international relationships and not trusting our government to actually get on and deal with it. I want the pressure, as far as I'm concerned, should be to make sure that Israel is accountable. Now, if Israel had said, no, that's absolutely what we intended to do and we're not going to investigate, then fine, I understand that argument. But they haven't said that. They have said this is a mistake. They need to be pressured to make sure that we get the answers of that investigation and to ensure that, as you say, there is not a casual attitude to deaths that are part of the collateral of this, and also that we are able to understand their direction of travel. But I think this has become politically charged in this country because we've now seen the likes of Corbyn or otherwise pushing for this, and there are certain people who are and have been pushing for an arms embargo to Israel on a point of politics for some while.
I don't think the amount of money that we make from the arms makes a difference, to be honest. I don't care if America the main suppliers. Every country is individual. If we are only giving them £1 and the people of this country say that's too much, then it should stop, because that's the will of the people. Israel have said from the very beginning this is what they intend to do. They're not saying it now, they're saying this was a mistake, but at the very start, on October 9th, 2 days after the massacre, they had said they will obliterate, they will stop food, they will stop electricity, they will make a siege, and they will... essentially, they're doing what they said 2 days after the assault. However, I agree with Isabel. We shouldn't be stopping selling weapons to Israel because we sell weapons to lots of countries. Saudi Arabia bombed the hell out of Yemen. They're with our weapons. China, who this government makes out to be the big bogeyman, we supply them with weapons. We supply weapons to 22 countries who are on our own human rights watch list. So it's completely hypocritical for the UK to say, Israel, stop what you're doing. You've got to do less of it, and then we're still going to give them weapons continuously. But this is the business, unfortunately, and it's war.
And is it based on anything, though, Emma? I mean, I said at the beginning there that I understand it, as Isabel said, that lots of people want to sign a letter, etc. But I'm just not sure what they talk about. It could be breaching international law. I think what they're saying there, it would only be breaching international law if you could define what Israel are doing as a genocide.
Yeah, and the problem, of course, is that daily, October the 7th, and the atrocity that actually kicked all this off is receding into the background, and it's being refreshed every day by, for example, the appalling deaths of these aid workers. That's fresher than what happened now, nearly 5 months ago. So that is, 6 months ago. So that is continually, people are, and as we've seen with the pro-Palestinian marches and all of that, that is what's at the top of people's minds.
We have a situation now where we have 30,000 dead. It's estimated about 10,000 of those are perhaps Hamas. But for me, that's not a good equation. So 2 lives gone for 1 military person, I don't think that's a good equation. And then when you count in fact, Britain is now riled because we've lost 3 British people working for a charity. 197 other aid workers have died since the start of this conflict.
I thought that's a sort of quite an obvious point to make, but I also thought it, all the fuss now because there's a few people with EU and UK passports.
Yeah.
This is just a tiny fraction, but it was ever thus. This is what gets the world